Hello, welcome again to Photo Moments with Mo, to another video, Photo Moments with Mo. Okay, so today we'll be in an overview of how I retouch this image in Photoshop. If you have not seen the last video I made on how I retouch this in Capture One, make sure I'll be dropping the link so that you can watch and catch up and also learn. Let's go to Photoshop. Yeah, so I'm going to just turn off everything that I've done. I know there's a way to do it. Someone said there's a way to just turn off everything, but I actually do not know if you know the way, or is it this? If you know the way to turn it off completely, like turn everything off at once, you can let me know in the comment section. We are all learning together. I'm going to just turn off everything. It's quite a number of layers. I did a lot of things for this, and this image is one of those images where you think, oh, it's nothing, it's just you're not really doing so much, it's just blemishes. And but when you start, you know that you have to do a lot of things. So let's get started with what I did first. After seeing this image, I didn't want to continue with this white background for personal reasons. Just for personal reasons, I will drop the image, the link to the image, in the description, so that if you are interested in retouching it, if you want to keep the background, no problem. Yeah, so the first thing I did was to actually blur the background. At first I was thinking, what can I do to this background? So I first blurred the background, but then I just thought, I don't just remove it all together, because even after blurring it, I was thinking of blurring and filling, but I just thought, why not just remove it all together, and then I add this, and I was like, wow, this is good. After this is already looking like a magazine image, already looking like editorial. Because I am actually using Photoshop 2021 because of the compatibility of my laptop. That is why you're not seeing all this AI that is in the latest Photoshop. So if your Photoshop is updated, you already know where you see to just remove the background. I think it would be easier. What I did was I went to select and then select subject. I selected the subject, just the subject, and then I inversed it. That's using Ctrl+Shift+I here, Ctrl+Shift+I. That's Command+Shift+I if you're using Mac. And I inversed it and used the solid color to just change the background. So that was basically what I did for this. I used change the background, and I used hue saturation, colorize, and just do this, to get this beautiful color that I wanted. Then what I did was I used Turn Visible to make the layer. So what I just did, that's Ctrl+Shift+Alt+E, that's Command+Shift+Alt+E, right? So that was what I did, and the reason was because I wanted to use the frequency separation. This frequency separation, I've been using it I think since 3 or 4 years ago. I guess. And it was Chris Mason that actually did it, equated it, and it's actually for free. So I'll be also giving you the link. I'll be adding the link to this in the description, so that can copy it. It's actually very good. I've been using it. I'm not sure I've used any other frequency separation system, because it actually has everything I need. So what I did was, basically what I just did. So this is the total action. So basically what I did was I just ran the frequency separation. I used 10. So let me just try to do it. Let's see if I want to create, but I'm going to delete. So what I used 7. I used 7 for the videos. And the reason was because what I needed this for was actually to remove blemishes. I just wanted to use the high frequency. Yeah, so remove. I just wanted to use the high frequency to remove blemishes. And the reason you're not seeing this here was because normally when you create, you're going to see high frequency separation. So after using the high frequency separation, what I did, okay, let me just create it so you guys can see. So what I did was these guys, I used 7. Let's try to create another frequency separation. So yeah, it did create another frequency separation. So I just used the high frequency. I picked my clone to make sure it is in current layer, not current and below. Then I used the high frequency, to remove the blemishes. That was what I did. I used this to just remove the blemishes. And then when I was done, I merged it because really I didn't have any use for it again. So I just merged it. That's why you're seeing only layer 3 inside of this. So I'm just going to delete this because, oh well, I do not need it. After I removed the blemishes, this is what so this is the before and this is the after. This is after I removed the blemishes. You can see it actually did a very good job of removing blemishes. So I'm just going to zoom out so that you can see the before. This was the before and this was the after. Yeah, so that was what I did for this. And then I did micro dodge and burn. My god, I think the micro dodge and burn was what made me take a lot of time for this particular image, because the micro dodge and burn normally takes time, right? So if you don't know micro dodge and burn, it is different from global dodge and burn in the sense that for micro dodge and burn, you will dodge the dark area. That's the shadow area. That's the shadow. You dodge the dark area, and then basically using to even out. We're using the micro dodge and burn for color correction, basically, not just color correction, for the skin correction. Yeah, for all the patches in the skin and everything. That's what I use dodge and burn. And funniest thing about micro dodge and burn is you might do a lot. Like you might have spent like 3 hours, and by the time you are checking before and after, it's almost like you haven't done anything. But really, the compounding effect is actually very great. So I would advise that you also do micro dodge and burn. And for the longest time, I've always just done anything in micro dodge and burn. But I think I'm going to create another video of how I now do my micro dodge and burn and how it will help you. Yeah. So for this particular image, what I did a micro dodge and burn, but you don't do micro dodge and burn on colored layer. So what I did, I created a shake layer. I used this for my micro dodge and burn, and this was the before, and this was the before, and this is the after. Before, after. I mean, you can see that it's not looking like much, but it is actually much. This was the before, and this was the after. Let's remove the check layer. This was the before. Actually, this was the before, you can see, and this is the after. Yeah, so and I noticed that the lip was uneven, like the lip was uneven. So I just created an empty layer and used my clone tab to remove, to even it out. So we're having this before, and then you pick another empty layer and my brush tool, and I picked my brush tool and I sampled this just by pressing Alt or Option on Mac. I sampled it, and after sampling it, I just like brushed this side so that it's, because it was just there, it was not given, it was not filled right, so I decided to fill it up, and I reduced my opacity so that it will not be too much. And I did liquify basically on not just the face, basically on almost every part of the face, especially the lip. Like I had to liquify the lip. If you look at the lip, if you notice the lip, it was good, right? But it was not. We don't want to work with just good. I had an image, I had the final image on my head already of how I wanted it to look, how perfect. I mean, not like plastic perfect, but natural perfect. You get what I'm saying? So I did, so I can see the overall effect of the liquify. I also use it to adjust the hair, some of the hair, the brow. If you pay attention, you're going to see I used it to adjust the brow, I used it to adjust the hair, I used to adjust the nose. And I also used to adjust the hand, because the hand was big. It was, because it was close to the camera, so it was bigger than it should be. So I also used it to adjust the hand. So basically that's what I did for the liquify. I also did another liquify. I made everything again using the stamp visible tool. That's Ctrl Shift Alt A. That's Command Shift Option A now. Right. So then I created another frequency separation. This now I'm using advanced frequency separation. Advanced, yeah. I ran the option again. I ran the action again using Prince Mason. Thank you so much again, Prince Mason, for this amazing frequency separation action. So then I did my thing. Alright, I did my thing. I didn't do too much. I didn't do too little, because I already did frequency separation. I used the mixer tool. This was what I used. So it's my brush. This was my brush settings, but I also changed this. So I like using the default, the whites. So just click on D on your keyboard and it is going to change. I don't like using any other color, just white. Then I did my thing, and this is the before. This is the before and the after. You can see the before and the after. You can see in all of this, I did not make it plastic. I did not. So don't do too much while you're practicing. Make sure you don't do too much. Let's just use that sweet spot. Make sure you don't do too much. That is why I advise that, especially for beauty or editorials, I would advise that you do your micrododge and bond first, so that you don't end up doing too much when you're using frequency separation. I mean, this is the before and the after, and you can already tell the huge difference from where we are coming from. Then I worked on the eyeball. I worked on the eyeball. I used my clone stab tool to just clean the eyeball. To clean the eyeball, and also I also used the clone stamp tool on this. But I did a lot of things. I created different layers, all for eyeball. But everything I used the close stamp tool to just, clean it and make it better. Remember I told you that I actually also liquefied. So this is another liquefy. Let's just remain. I think I didn't go back to the minutes. Liquefy. So I went again to liquefy the lip. It was not. This is the before, and this is the after. Yeah, that is just me being me. And I used this to. I noticed an uneven part. I just used it to with my close stamp tool. I use the close stamp tool a lot. Then I used the global dodge and burn. For global dodge and burn, it's basically the same thing. You are dodging the bright parts. You are burning the dark parts. You are burning the shadows. You are dodging the highlights. I love using the curve tool for my what's it called now? For my dodge and burn. Any other tool you use, any other adjustment you use, just use what works for you best. This is what works for me. I just increased the curve and then picked my brush tool. This was in 55 and then this was in 5. That was what I used for this. And what I do, I create a lot. Like you can see, I forgot to actually name them. Sorry about that. All these are still from this to this was actually dodge. So this is the before for the dodge and this is the after. Before, after. I also noticed that this part was a little bit dark, like it was uneven. The shadow was too, like the difference between the highlights and the shadow was too much, so I just wanted it to be cleaner. So I dodged it. I should have done that in micro dodge and burn, but yeah. And this is the overall effect of the I didn't do too much for the burn. Just a little. Why? And if you notice, everything was in for the burn. The burn was 65, 60, but for the dodge, I made sure to reduce. I didn't want to do too much. Except for when I think, okay, I think it's, for most of the time, I use 53. Yeah, so that's about the global dodge and burn. It's just, global dodge and burn is actually just, to add that glow. Yeah, it adds that glow to pictures. Yeah. So, and I went again to liquefy, and this time I went to liquefy the brow. If you notice, this brow, the position is not equal, and this is supposed to be a beauty image. I still want to leave, even though if you leave chance for imperfection, but I wanted this natural perfect, like as if it was just that always been like that. You get, I just wanted it to look at like, okay, as if it had always been like that, natural, not the plastic kind of perfect. So I adjusted it. I adjusted the arc, I adjusted the brow, Tell me about a photographer being a makeup artist. So I adjusted the bow, and then I went straight to color grading. I used, I picked the, for this first, what I did first was I picked the color picker. I use the color picker. Most time I just use my brush tool. I just click on color option, or alt, and then the color picker then I just picked a color, then a color from mid-tone. Remember, color from mid-tone. Then I just picked the color from mid-tone. Then I also went to curves, just increase a little bit. Then I also used, I reduced the saturation, and then I went to do my thing in black and white, using black and white. Then this is what we have. This is the before, and this is the after. Yeah. And I went again for the eye. It's just then I whitened the eye. Yeah, not too much. And I love the catch light, but I wanted more, so I highlighted the catch lights. You can see the before, the after. So it's looking like she's staring deep into your soul. Yeah, then I sharpened. This is my sharpening. I just, what I do when I want to sharpen is I'll use the stamp visible tool again, like merge, that's Ctrl Shift Alt E. Then I change the blend mode to overlay, and I go to filter, order, eye pass. So when I do this, it's going to change to, I used 4, radius 4. So that's basically how I do my own sharpening. You might have your own sharpening action. This is how I do my own sharpening. And then I sharpened the eye. I just basically just copy and delete the mask and mask in for the eye, so that it will look more sharp. Then yeah, this copyrights. Then finally I was actually done, but I noticed the background color now was like too bright. It was almost like competing with so what I did was I created a new stamp, like a new layer using stamp visible to like merge all. Then I selected again using how we select the image, inverse, and I picked a new color. What I just did, I picked that same color. Then I changed the brightness. I reduced the brightness. That's basically what I did. And I reduced the curve, so that just to make it a little bit darker than R. And yeah, that's it. Just to make it a little bit darker so that we can have that nice sweet separation. So this is the before and this is the after. This is the before, this is the after. This is the before, this is the after. This is the before, this is the after. And you can also still crop. Before I posted, I cropped it tighter. I gave it a close crop. So what I did again, I went back to Capture One. To finish this was the picture. Then I went back to Capture One. So color grade again. this was what I did. I just reduced the brightness and increased the highlights. Then I increased the levels. I pulled the shadow in. I put the slider towards the shadow, and I also did the same for the highlights. And I came here, and for the red, I reduced the lightness. I wanted it to pop a little bit more. And I came to the orange, slider orange. I picked the hue towards the yellow a little bit. I increased the saturation and increased the lightness. And that was all that I did. So I really hope you found this video helpful. If you did, and I'm sure you did, please make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Make sure you comment. Make sure you share and turn on the notification too, and please subscribe. Please subscribe. That way this video will be suggested to other people that also need to see it. Okay, till next time. See you next week. See you in the next video. Thank you for watching.